Book 1, Chapter 4 of the Adventures of Gil Blas of Santillana by Alain René Le Sage, translated by Tobias Smollett. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Book 1, Chapter 4. Description of the subterraneous dwelling and its contents. I now knew into what company I had fallen, and I leave it to any one to judge whether the discovery must not have rid me of my former fear. A dread more mighty and more just now seized my faculties, money and life all given up for lost. With the air of a victim on his passage to the altar did I walk, more dead than alive, between my two conductors, who, finding that I trembled, frightened me so much the more by telling me not to be afraid. When we had gone 200 paces, winding down a declivity all the way, we got into a stable lighted by two large iron lamps suspended from the vault above. There was a good store of straw and several casks of hay and corn, with room enough for 20 horses. But at that time there were only the two which came with us. An old negro, who seemed for his years in pretty good case, was tying them to the rack where they were to feed. We went out of the stable. By the melancholy light of some other lamps, which only served to dress up horror in its native colours, we arrived at a kitchen, where an old harridan was broiling some steaks on the coals and getting supper ready. The kitchen furniture was better than might be expected, and the pantry provided in a very plentiful manner. The lady of the larder's picture is worth drawing, considerably on the wrong side of 60. In her youth her hair had been of a fiery red, though she would have called it auburn. Time had indeed given it the fairer tint of grey, but a lock of more youthful hue, interspersed at intervals, produced all the variegated effect of the admired autumnal shades. To say nothing of an olive complexion, she had an enormous chin turning up, an immense nose turning down, with a mouth in the middle modestly retiring inwards to make room for its encroaching neighbours. Red eyes are no beauty in any animal but a ferret. Hers were purple. "Here, Dame Leonarda," said one of the horsemen, as he presented me to this angelic imp of darkness, "we have brought you a young lad." Then, looking round and observing me to be miserably pale, "Pluck up your spirits, my friend, you shall come to no harm. We want a scullion, and have met with you. You are a lucky dog. We had a boy who died about a fortnight ago. You shall succeed to the preferment. He was rather too delicate for his place. You seem a good stout fellow, and may live a week or two longer. We find you in bed and board, coal and candle, but as for daylight, you will never see that again. Your leisure hours will pass off very agreeably with Leonarda, who is really a very good creature and tolerably tender-hearted. You will have all your little comforts about you. I flatter myself you have not got among beggars." At this moment the thief seized a flambeau, and, as I feared, with zeal to destroy, for he ordered me to follow him. He took me into a cellar, where I saw a great number of bottles and earthen pots full of excellent wine. He then made me cross several rooms. In some were pieces of cloth piled up, in others stuffs and silks. As we passed through, I could not help casting a sheep's eye at the gold and silver plate peeping out of the different cupboards. After that I followed him into a great hall illuminated by 3 copper lustres, and serving as a gallery between the other rooms. Here he put fresh questions to me, asking my name, why I left Oviedo, and when I had satisfied his curiosity, "Well, Gil Blas," said he, "since your only motive for quitting your native place was to get into something snug and eligible, to be sure you must have been born to good luck, or you would not have fallen into our hands. I tell you once for all, you will live here on the fat of the land, and may souse over head and ears in ready money. Besides, you are in a place of perfect safety. The officers of the Holy Brotherhood might pass through the forest 100 times without discovering our subterraneous abode. The entrance is only known to myself and my comrades. You may perhaps ask how it came to be contrived without being perceived by the inhabitants in the neighbourhood. But you are to understand, my friend, that it was made long ago, and is no work of ours. After the Moors had made themselves masters of Granada, of Aragon, and nearly the whole of Spain, the Christians, rather than submit to the tyranny of infidels, betook themselves to flight, and lay concealed in this country, in Biscay, and in the Asturias, whither the brave Don Pelagio had withdrawn himself. They lived in a state of exile on the mountains, or in the woods, dispersed in little knots. Some took up their residences in natural caves, others in artificial dwellings underground, like this we are in. In process of time, when by the blessing of Providence they had driven their enemies out of Spain, they returned to the towns. From that time forth their retreats have served as a rendezvous for the gentlemen of our profession. It is true that several of them have been discovered and destroyed by the Holy Brotherhood, but there are some yet remaining, and by great good luck I have tenanted this without paying any rent for it almost these 15 years. Captain Rolando, at your service. I am the leader of the band, and the man you saw with me is one of my troopers. End of Book 1, Chapter 4.